Hello, welcome back to Christi Tasker's Town Halls at 12 on Tuesdays. Yes, thank you very much for joining me for a little bit more common sense in our city of Miami government. What do you say? Can everybody hear me okay? My mother, a co-host producer who's normally here to say, yes, we can hear you, is not here today. So if you will, please kindly comment. Let me know that you are here. Let me know that you can hear me. I see where it looks like we have people joining on right now. Looks like we have viewers on each channel. So thank you very much for tuning in. Today, I want to share with you guys like several things that have been going on within our city government. Yay! Yay, yay, yay. Barbara is here and she can hear me. Thank goodness. We've got so much going on in our city government. We have elections coming up where we are going to be able to turn over the apple cart and literally not only turn over the apple cart, but the police officers that have blown the whistle on some of these guys have said, please, Christi, make sure that you not only turn over the apple cart, but you bite off the apple and spit out the seeds. So I know that seems very, like it's hard to believe that this has gone on in our city government. There's so many things that are shocking even to me. Whenever I think I've heard just about everything, something else comes up. So that is absolutely true. I feel like I have the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and U.S. Marshals on speed dial because I do, because that's what it's gonna take to help us clean up our government. But what I want to go over today is ways that you can help yourself in the process and how we can hold our government accountable, some of the things that they should be doing that they are not, and how we as people and as normal citizens can access records and what records should look like, what they currently don't look like, and what's being hidden from us in plain sight. So I'm just going to start with one of the things that, has kind of, piqued an interest with me. So I got a message, because I'm a candidate. I got a message saying, oh, you should join Sabina Kovo out at David Kennedy Park. There's going to be a ribbon cutting for these restrooms. So I was like, oh, cool. Okay, this is great. So I just want to show you exactly like what this email looks like, because in pure transparency, how you actually see all of these that play out. Okay, so I get this, these multiple emails regarding the David Kennedy Park. You can see, where it's tomorrow, where it's today. So let's just take a look at this. Okay, so I get this message is today at 10:15. The Kennedy Park restrooms building improvements. So one of the red flags that kind of goes up for me on this is whenever we have an issue with something and immediately I see where politicians in Miami want to take care of I want to do ribbon cutting ceremonies because, I see this as a way to, for them to stake their claim on different various projects when the reality is, number one, it's your taxpayer money that's paying for this. So I didn't go to this ribbon cutting because I think it's somewhat of a waste of time. I'm curious to see what you think. I think it's a waste of taxpayer time and money. I think the parks should just have the restrooms, be done with it. It's not anything we should be praising a politician for. So let's go over the benefits for this project and what they claim the benefits were. Benefits of this project included new restrooms, building, including the storage. All elements are ADA compliant, which they have to be, by the way, for the law. Never mind, they don't really take in account for that for transportation. A new walkway around the perimeter of the building with new sodding and landscaping. A drinking water fountain, including a pet-friendly fountain section. A new building elevation was approved by the Federal Emergency Management, FEMA. Building which, by the way, we'll get to FEMA and some things later. I don't want to get too much into that, but if you guys will remind me if you want to know about FEMA and the Federal Emergency Management Agency, I'll explain a little bit more about how that works. The new building includes enhanced flood restraint walls and doors. Okay. So the part that, let's see. So that was an invitation. It was attached. Okay. So some people did not get this invitation. However, there's this link here. Okay. So here's the link. Let's go to the city website. So I basically clicked that link. And it says your project is complete. You're invited to the ribbon cutting ceremony. Okay. But here's what I noticed. Okay. Construction cost, $1,132,461. For again, the demolition of an existing bathroom structure, design and build of a new ADA compliant bathroom, new accessible walkway, new accessible ramps, new water fountain, and sod improvements. Okay. Then they want your feedback here. Well, so one of the things I did is I filled this out. And I said I wanted to see all the documents for this particular bathroom. So the bathroom itself, let me just take you to it. So Miami City records request, it can be accessed. There's a lot of records online that I think a lot of people, you may want to just take a look at. And if you ever forget where these are, you can actually just go to Google and search City Miami records request and just go to City of Miami public records here. Okay. Even I do that just when I'm in a hurry and, don't want to have to remember the URL because nothing in our government right now makes sense. It's the URL is so long. It's like miami.gov, my government, government services, public records. So it's just easier to do it via Google or go directly to miami.gov. So you can search the existing records request. So let's just search David Kennedy bathroom, okay? Because let's see what's going on David Kennedy Park as a whole. And you will see where I opened records request in a couple of the different areas, okay? And the documents were saying released, okay? So some of the documents are saying released because some people wanted to know the statutes and rules and regulations regarding park maintenance. So here are the parks and recreation maintenance. So I'm just going to say this. All of our documents in the city, even though they're there, some of them are either overcomplicated or, I'm realizing I'm not sharing the correct tab. Excuse me. So either our documents are extremely long and overcomplicated or they do not exist at all. So what I'm going to do is show you the documents regarding, what I requested. Okay. Hold on just a second. I accidentally did a little boop off. Okay. So we're going to go back to this. So you can see the documents that I requested or pursuant Florida Public Records Law, which is Chapter 119 in Florida statutes. I was requesting all records for what's called requests for proposals. Okay, so this is a big deal. Within the city of Miami, we are supposed to have requests for proposals. So, which is called an RFP in like the world of development or construction. Some of you may be aware of that. So requests for proposals are when the government should be, throwing the job out there saying, listen, we need your proposals for this specific project. So one of the things I am finding is there are no requests for proposals. They're simply appointments or specific areas where these jobs are literally being handed to friends of politicians. Okay, so I said I'm requesting these RFPs, the contracts submitted, the contracts the commission accepted, so in other words, what did the commission actually accept for the contracts? Because I wanted to see, did they take an opportunity to review all of the contracts? Because one of the ways I see us being able to better manage the city as a whole is that we have to have the opportunity to review the contracts and all of the contracts, not just pass those through the city manager. Because remember, I showed you in the city manager that we have has never managed a city before in his life. We just gave him the city management position. So I requested the itemized invoices with all products and services or the amounts associated with the construction of the new bathrooms at David Kennedy Park. I give them the address. Additionally, please include all invoices related to the temporary rental or acquisition of the portable bathroom facilities. Okay, because this is also a way that governments waste a lot of money, is by giving their friends who own the portable bathroom companies a contract for these bathrooms. And then the bathrooms stay there for a really long time, right? How long did they stay in David Kennedy Park? Do you guys remember? A very, very long time. Okay. So pretty much you immediately get a notice saying, your records request has been accepted, but notice there are no documents. And this has been since September the 21st. Okay. So I'd already requested another one that they closed out conveniently. Okay, let me just show you. So they closed out another document here. Let's see. With a very, very vague answer for someone else. So I always look and always search, the other documents that, maybe somebody else has already gotten them, because I'm not trying to create, a lot of hassle within our city employees as a whole, because it's very difficult for them. But as a whole, whenever we are, looking for documents, we should be able to find them pretty easily. So let's go back and actually just search David Kennedy Park again, because it was a second request that I'd made, and you can see what's open. It's still showing open and closed. So there is a point of contact typically on every documents request that you can see here. And then here, let's see. Okay, so that was the records request. Hold on, let's see, because there's one more that I wanted to show you that was closed out. Okay. So that was the meeting to discuss. It's very strange. I think one of them actually might be missing, which would not be typical. I mean, which is not typical, but yet it does look like one is missing. So I made a request for a document. Fortunately, it should be in my email. So let's look there. I made the request for the David Kennedy documents and received a very, very, very vague response. Okay. Anyway, I'm not going to waste time looking it up, but when they responded, they basically gave me a 2-line. Actually, hold on a second. Let's look here. They gave me 2 lines. It was basically a spreadsheet with 2 lines, like services and the materials. Okay. We should never see that. We should never accept that, a 2-line agreement or being billed in terms of 2 lines. No, we should know what we are paying for, all the way down to the labor hours, what we were billed for, what does the contract look like, and the bill itself should coordinate with the contract that we were supplied. So first off, I want you to know, as your new commissioner on November the 8th, the moment I am sworn in, we will have access to these documents. There will be no way around it. Okay. If they do not supply me access to the documents that I am requesting, the one thing that I will be doing is making a motion for the documents to be on my desk. Okay. And you will know about it. So we have to make sure that we know what's actually happening in our government. I'm going to read some of the comments right now so that we can see who is saying what. ADA compliant often means made it hard for you to sue us rather than actually be accessible. That is correct. That is absolutely correct, Danny. In terms of ADA, there is ADA compliance as a whole. But what it does is when the ADA basically puts their stamp on something and says, oh, this is the right way that it is, it doesn't mean that it's done with common sense or that it makes it super easy for disabled or handicapped people to access it. It just means that it met the expectations of the ADA. So there are things that we could do much, much better by actually having handicapped people come out and review the plans to see if they see anything, that may seem odd prior. So that is one way that I will be putting citizens' interest over special interest. So the ADA, believe it or not, could be considered a special interest group. Whereas our citizens, obviously, like Danny is disabled. So, that would be a great person, you would think, to have on a board so that she could come and review things and at least make me aware of any situations that she foresees as a handicapped person. So that is one of the things I will be doing, Danny. Gladys Fuentes says, once again, tear down and rebuild. Yes, exactly. So we have a lot of this tear down and rebuild within the city of Miami. As a whole, we have some structures, believe it or not, that have been here for decades. And there's, to me, visually nothing wrong with them. And by the way, I do understand building inspections. And I wanted to share with you guys a little bit about how I know a lot of these things. Okay. So I wanted to pull up like a project that I have done so that you can see how I really know about production and a lot of different things when it comes to building in general. Okay, so Gladys. Oh, actually, hold on a second. Gladys actually says they too soon, Christy. They are slow to respond. That is correct. They're always slow to respond because they're trying to get their act together after the fact instead of before. So one of the ways that I will also be, I will be making a motion that we actually change the way that we hire within the city of Miami in terms of how the contracts are awarded. Because right now the contracts are awarded basically like think of them as being on a Ferris wheel. And if you just qualify, you're just going to get the next contract that comes up. So imagine the commission itself could actually like withhold a really big contract for their friends and then have the next person, like have the little guy only get the little contract or their friends get the bigger contract. So that's the way it actually occurs right now. So I'll be making a motion based on performance and based on skill and experience. Speaking of skill and experience, it's kind of interesting to me. I'm hearing a lot of backlash that Christi Tasker is just an earring designer. I think it's actually quite comical if you want to know the truth, because, even the Epoch Times did a huge article on me and my abilities like last week, just included me on an article they were already doing regarding skill versus degree. And for those of you wondering, I was offered a full ride to Harvard Business School, which I turned down. I did go to several courses there, much like Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, along with other very successful people, but I just chose not to spend my time at Harvard. So what I did do is I decided to, spend my time self-educating. And I was already super educated in terms of exactly, what to do with construction and how to do different things, because a lot of my family is also in the construction business in Georgia. I have no conflicts of interest whatsoever because they do not work in South Florida, and I do not expect them to be working in South Florida at all. So I just wanted to share this article with you. I was featured in this article last week. It's an in-depth employment experts discuss disconnect between useful skills and academic degrees. So, not only do we have a huge problem like throughout the world utilizing common sense, but we also have a problem where we have a lot of students that are graduating with degrees and they have no skills. So I was actually covered in this article that, and I agree with the Harvard Business School survey that jobs do not require a 4-year degree, employers do. So Harvard Business School, agrees with me. I agree with them, and I was covered in this specific article. So I will drop a link to this article down in the comments right now for those of you who want to take a look at it. That is the article. So I do run businesses all over the world. I also am a business consultant. And you can see in this specific article, they selected a photo of me right after I had, done interviews with the Property Brothers, who are on HGTV, and with some of my other clients. So, and other people that I have mentored. So you can see who those are. One is the granddaughter of Frank Lloyd Wright. The other is designers out of Dallas for 2 different interior design firms. So speaking of that, so I'll kind of roll into, what my expertise is and share a little bit about, Miami as a whole. Because one of the things that people typically, don't realize about me is that I have been around Miami for a really long time. I just have not, tooted my own horn, not taunted, tooted my own horn. I have helped a lot of others in terms of businesses. I love to help other businesses. I love to help them succeed. And I love to help them grow. So I have been featured quite a bit in the Miami Herald. If you just search Christi Tasker in the Miami Herald archive articles, you'll see where that is done. But I thought one really interesting part that even my mom had forgotten about, so I thought I would bring this up, is back in like 2017, I had also helped with the Kampong Show House. So the Kampong Show House was Miami, was by the Miami, who was it? Miami, gosh, I've lost my train of thought. The Miami, the Miami Women's Group. Not the women's group. It'll come to me in a second. But anyway, that's the thing. I don't like when people call me for help, I jump in and I help them. Okay. That's the way I've always been. So they called me saying, oh gosh, we don't have enough designers. This designer went out. Oh my gosh. Now we don't have a countertop supplier. We don't have, this, Christy, we don't have that. We need, we need X, X, and X. And so before I knew it, the junior league, sorry, this is the junior league show house. This is when they did it at Kampong. So this is an example of like, if I had not pitched in and helped them when they needed it, this project would have never gotten done. It would have not raised money on time, but instead I was able to help them, get hardware sponsors, flooring sponsors, like within no time. So that's the way I also know how much a lot of these items that are within our bathrooms, like for instance, I know how much plumbing costs. I know how much a square foot of tile costs. And I also know how much it costs to install it. So I think that is one of the things that is like very interesting and very concerning to our elected officials, because they have no clue how much these things cost. And I do, and I will be able to immediately make sure that that the pricing is in line, because I don't think it is at all. I think we're being overcharged millions of dollars at a time. And no one's really paying attention. They've gotten away with it for a really long time. And so here we are. Barbara says, this is shocking. No one is monitoring contract procurement and fulfillment. That is correct, Barbara. Leaving the doors wide open to fraud and theft. That is correct. And I do believe that there's a lot of fraud and theft going on. And it's been going on right underneath our noses, possibly because I have been, doing projects instead of paying attention to our government. So now, obviously, I'm massively paying attention to our government. And I am more than capable of doing massive projects, no matter what they are, whether it be for our city, for Alzheimer's Association, for magazines out of New York or whatever. So this is just one minute example of a project that I did in Dallas for Alzheimer's Association. And just so you guys know, I selected the designers, the builders, The magazine, like I started this project absolute from scratch. And within an 18-month period, I'm talking about literally, I even selected the land with the builder.
Hundreds, if not thousands, of luxury homes in North Texas.
But we found one that is different because it'll make a difference for many people. Channel 8's Sean Giggy tells us this tour.
Let's hit it, girls and boys.
This may be the most monumental home building project ever in North Texas, and the most odd way to celebrate.
This is definitely a dream come true for me.
Donna Moss and her husband Paul are the creative minds behind the project, called the Dallas Decorators Show House.
With the inspiration.
Traditional Home magazine is the muscle.
Working with you guys.
Every year, the magazine spotlights a few houses in America that represent the best in style and design.
Cute little hallway.
Being selected is like winning the Super Bowl.
There is not too many builders and designers and decorators that get to do a project of this scale.
Which is why, for Donna and Paul, this is such a big deal. It's the first time the magazine has ever come to Texas.
There's so much great design going on in Texas. So we had to jump in.
It's a melting pot.
Donna and Paul are working with 21 of America's best designers to make this house in Southlake the most beautiful one in North Texas.
Ground vaulted ceilings.
Once it's finished, the $3.4 million, 7,500 square foot house will be shown to the public and then sold.
Voila.
Which brings us back to that dance. The project's executive producer, Christi Tasker, there on the far right, lost her grandfather to Alzheimer's about a year ago. She says he couldn't remember much, but he did know how to do this crisscross dance.
You can still do it.
She's not the only one affected. Paul's mom is losing her memories too. That's why proceeds from tours and the sale of the house will go toward finding a cure for this terrible disease.
There's no one that's ever been cured from Alzheimer's. So we're hoping we can be a part of, the big picture to get something done for that.
Which makes this home invaluable. Sean Giggy, Channel 8 News.
Good for them. All signed.
So I say that because, a lot of people ask me, well, Christi, how are you going to go in and get the job done? Okay, so let's just take this home, for instance. It was actually on a road that was partially owned by city, county, and TxDOT, which is like our FDOT, but in Texas. Okay. So they could not decide who owned what out of this road. It was so ridiculous that I basically said overnight, they were trying to keep a road shut down. And I said, hey guys, this is what we're going to do. So I called in the news. I called Channel 8 there, which is kind of like our Channel 10. And I called NBC, and I basically had all the cameras out in the middle of the road. And I said, we are going to decide right now, because they kept blaming it on this traffic study and this study and that study. And I said, well, here's the deal. I'm tired of hearing about studies. This has been well over a year and a half. There's been enough studying to go on that the public can decide exactly how they can come in and out of this home. So let's just say I flew to Texas in the morning, landed about 7:30. At 8:30, we had a meeting. And this is while I'm living in Miami, mind you. We had a meeting in the middle of these roads with the fire, police. I had multiple sheriffs out there, one from each entity or one from each region. And I said, we are going to decide as regular human beings how this is going to be handled. But this road is going to be open because this project is going to be open. And we are going to have a lot of traffic to it. Sure enough, we raised well over $100,000 just for Alzheimer's alone based on one check. Okay. We had tons of designers that were included, very famous designers, as you can see, from Donna Moss from HGTV and many others. Okay. But that's not the point. The point is nobody, not even the builder, was able, the developer for the neighborhood was not able to come up with a resolution and a solution where Christi Tasker, within 1 hour, utilizing the media, did come up with a solution. And guess what? That road is open to this day. It costs less than $10,000 per department. And it was very inexpensive. Like they basically just divided the fees. And to this day, I am very, very well known in that region because this had gone on forever, much like the situations that I see going on here in Miami. So I will say to you, when I am your commissioner, I will be out We will find a solution. We will not wait on all these traffic studies because I say, who is making the money off of the traffic studies? We already have traffic studies, and the traffic studies do not even have the content of what we need to know in order to make a decision. For instance, whenever we have speeding through an area, knowing how many cars are crossing into the area does not really matter. The only thing that matters is how fast are those cars going? When do they speed up? When do they not? But guess what? Instead of going with another traffic study, making money and padding someone else's pockets, I will be going directly to the residents that live around and say, hey, where do you see these cars speeding up? Hey, do you have any videos? Is there any way that maybe we could put a camera on your home? Like doing something very commonsensical so that we can find basic solutions for some of these basic problems that have gone unsolved for a very, very long time. So we have, don't forget about the trash can study. Kovo is waiting to replace, that's correct. The entire study deal is unbelievable. Really, it is absolutely unbelievable. Like to say I'm waiting on a study in order to get you trash cans when there's clearly trash there, like in specific areas. And by the way, not only do we have a trash problem, but she's actually removed trash cans and is waiting for someone else to tell her that she can replace the trash cans. I don't need anybody to tell me that we can replace your trash cans and that we need trash cans. Okay. What I don't need that she has currently in her office is I don't need an event planner. I don't need a PR person for me. And I can probably be able to answer your own emails because I want to see them myself anyway. I don't know how many of them there are. From what I've seen online, people are getting so frustrated that they barely even report anything to 311. And when they do, they're being told to re-follow up with the office. Let me tell you something. They get those 311 requests when it's in your district based on address right away. And if not, we need to fix the technology. And the technology is probably a solution that could be fixed by me just going to whoever's running the software and checking a box on the back end. I have already told our chief of police that I would be glad to come and sit with him and whoever is running that piece of technology for him, because I know exactly what is missing. And it's basically a box is not being checked on the back end. So I ask, is it on purpose that this box isn't being checked? Because otherwise you as citizens would have transparency. You would know how much crime there is in an area. You would know how many suicides, how many robberies, how many calls are being made to specific buildings, because we have a problem with our Airbnb buildings. Okay. Not only are they making Miami homeless, but they actually are costing us a ton of money and resources, time, ambulances, fire trucks, policemen, firemen, having to go out to tourist agended locations. The building managers are not happy with it. Most of the homeowners and the HOA is not happy with it. I don't think they know how to get rid of it. I've given them solutions on how to get rid of it that I'm not going to talk about here, because we also have a problem. My campaign manager, Barbara, and I have a huge problem with people copying exactly what I say. Okay. So I'm going to say this to you as a voter. Please make sure that you go back, that you look at my February videos. Thank God I made them. Because while some people were referencing me as being radical, I was the only one fighting the corruption, and the people have been arrested. Okay? I am the only commissioner candidate that stood in front of Joe Carollo, asked for his resignation. The rest, they produced a lot of propaganda before the time came for the city meeting, but nobody else faced Joe Carollo and asked for his resignation. Christi Tasker is the only one who asked for his resignation. And I also looked at Sabina Kovo at the same time and asked her to immediately make a motion to put a lien on his property and another motion to remove him immediately from any trust within our city, including the Bayfront Park Trust. Did she do it? Absolutely not, because Sabina Covo is in the hands of Joe Carollo and Alex Diaz de la Portilla. I know a lot of people do not realize that they are two people working together, but I assure you, they are. And when it comes time, when the investigations are completed, I fully expect almost our entire government to be turned upside down. And I'm saying that on record, and I'm saying it to you here, because we have got to get our city back. Let me make sure I've covered all the comments. Danny R., I think there's another comment. The county has an online database that if you research all the payments the county makes, the city makes you FOIA for it. That is correct. Okay, that is correct. So the county has the online database where the city does not yet. The city also makes you FOIA for basic body cam footage from our police. It makes you FOIA for just about everything. And then when you do FOIA, they do not respond. So that will be a huge one that will be changing in my office. I will be publishing anything on my part of the website. I will be publishing any documents that I approve. I will be appointing board members to specific areas. I will be appointing citizens that have worked hard in those areas. I will not be appointing developers. I will not be appointing people from special interest groups, because I believe it further disenfranchises our citizens as a whole. For instance, we have right now Keenan. Keenan is actually sitting on our building department code compliance board. I believe he's still county commissioner or connected to county commissioners. He also works for Alex Diaz de la Portilla. He helped Chairwoman King get elected. He also helped Ken Russell, Alex Diaz de la Portilla, Francis Suarez helped Ken Russell get elected. You should ask him about it. That's the reason I don't want Ken Russell's endorsement. I don't need the endorsement for these people, because you know what? The endorsements from people like that, guess where they're going to get the citizens? Nowhere. We're going to be in the same predicament that we are right now. So we, as a citizens of City of Miami, must, number one, hold these people accountable. Number two, we must, absolutely must, pay attention to the government. We must pay attention to what people are saying. We must pay attention to where our government officials are going. They're money laundering, bribery. They are utilizing the public office as their office, not as your office. My office will be your office. You will be welcome there anytime, not just Wednesdays, not just whenever. Matter of fact, I hope that I will have citizens like yourself as a volunteer to come in and help do some things, to help plan events if that's your gift. Because we must quit taking money from the federal government, from the county. We must learn to spend the money that we get within our tax monies wisely. We must reduce taxes. There are ways that I'm going to be able to reduce taxes. When I said earlier regarding the HOAs making changes, well, if we need to, if we see that these Airbnbs are indeed taking up a lot of our resources, we can tax any leases or any buildings or any specific entities that do not require a 12-month lease, because that will also solve our homeless problem, because our buildings are currently occupied by tourists and not citizens. That is a huge problem. So while everybody else is out telling you that we have homeless issues, we do have homeless issues. Absolutely. We have affordable housing issues, because none of these developers or none of these investors want to rent on a 12-month lease. They want to rent on a month-to-month because then they could hike the rents up as high as they want to go. On a 12-month lease, there are some governance that keeps them from being able to hike up rents so high. But however, at the same time, I'm also going to be working with our legislature. I'm actually going to Alex Rizzo, and we'll be asking him to make an emergency meeting with the legislature to overturn some of the insurance issue that is occurring. So, you know what? Write Alex Rizzo's office, because I've already tried to meet with Vicki Lopez, who created the legislation to begin with, but Vicki Lopez is not responsive to me. Vicki Lopez knows that I'm very interested in helping her revise this. As a matter of fact, I asked her, could she please go into special session so that we could reverse this entire insurance issue? But she refuses to. At the same time, the other big, huge piece of common sense that we have to deal with is our fire departments, because our fire rating, if you are not an A+ rating, you're not going to get an A+ company. Okay. So we have to have a better fire rating, which means we have to have more departments. They have to have the equipment and they have to have the infrastructure. You may be saying, but Christi, how are you going to do that and like not raise taxes? Well, number one, we have developers out there that have open building permits. They have infrastructure duties within those permits. And I will be taxing them additionally on their infrastructure permits. And it's not that I don't care about the new people coming in, but I don't care about the luxury high rises. I care about keeping people, our workers, our workforce in their buildings to begin with. I care about whether or not our seniors can pay their taxes or not. I care about whether or not our homeless are on our streets, because if we are kicking people out of their homes because of, lack of support in paying their rents or their insurances, or by just simply not making legislation that supports home ownership, and it only supports big investors and big developers, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. So you may have heard me at the last town hall. So the last town hall that we did was the Brickell Neighborhood Alliance. It was up in Edgewater, a beautiful town hall and a beautiful building. So at the very end, there was a disclosure made by the mayor's office attorney, Eddie Leal, who I'm running against. Eddie Leal said to the public how many millions of dollars he holds and how trustworthy he is. The reality is Eddie Leal runs a huge amount of shell companies. And underneath those shell companies are basically a cover so that you can't find them as easily. But underneath those shell companies, he has a ton of condos. Okay. So he is a landlord. So he is a participant in this, but he is not informing the public of that part. Okay. So I called it out. And his heckler came after me. Well, interestingly enough, the heckler, who was trying to basically cover up my statements, but I just put the microphone closer to me because the public needs to know. They deserve to know. All of you deserve to know who these people are before you even consider electing them, because they certainly scrub their social media. They don't have any other things out there available on them. I would be concerned if I were in the public, if I were reviewing any of us, that's the first thing that I would look at. It's like, look, has their social media been scrubbed? I don't need to scrub my social media, because whatever I've said in the past, you have every right to see and you have every right to know. Well, a lot of these people don't even have history that they want you to see, because they're not honest. They have no integrity. And what you're looking at right now on this screen is somebody who has an immense amount of integrity, an immense amount of care for our community, and a vast knowledge on how to fix these problems. I have no problem going in and making sure that things are done for the interest of us, the citizens, and not the politicians. I'm not going to City Hall to make friends with Joe Carollo or Alex Diaz de la Portilla. I've never had a private conversation with them because guess what? They don't want to have a private conversation with me because they've already sent their people and they know that I cannot be bought. Francis Suarez as well. So notice when they do not want to have a conversation with you, that is when they start to attack. They try to make it out like you are just, an earring girl, or you're just after your 2 minutes of fame. I assure you, globally, I am more well known than anybody else on the ballot with me. Because you know what? I've done the right thing by people for a very long time, most of it without pay. Okay. So please feel free to look me up. I want to make sure too, a lot of people have also asked, what kind of family I grew up in. So you just saw the project that I did for Alzheimer's Association. So I also want, because, have a lot of seniors that watch these. So I want to make sure that, where, we're kind of coming from in terms of, how did I gain knowledge? What is my family like? First of all, I have 5 beautiful daughters. Only one is a biological daughter. The other 4 are my husband's children. They did live, 2 of them have lived with us at some point in time, and they're much older. So all of our children, the youngest one is 27. I have 7 grandchildren. They are absolutely amazingly beautiful. People may ask, well, why don't you post photos of your grandchildren online? I don't post photos of my grandchildren because I do not want this new AI. Keep in mind, I'm in technology, and I do not want this new AI to get a hold of my grandchildren's faces. I don't want to be responsible for that. Just like I don't want AI to have control of our citizens' faces. And that is also a huge concern of mine. While we're touting we don't want the billboards, well, those billboards are also able to record people's faces. I think a lot of people don't realize that. That's not even being spoken about. And we have a lot of other politicians that have flip-flopped back and forth on these billboards. Some have taken money. Some have pretended to start their own what do you call it? Their own, I don't know, their own petitions, regarding the billboards. You can actually see where I started the petition, or helped start the petition regarding removing Joe Carollo from office, because that's where we start. We start at the head, not the tail. The billboard issue is merely a distraction to make you think that people are actually doing something while they are working together. Oftentimes you can research. We have people in our government that are also helping other candidates get elected with people who used to work in their office or from their office. We also have an incumbent that is utilizing her office for her election. So you will also be seeing me filing campaign violations, and I'll be filing those myself. And it's just not cool at all. What's being done to our citizens as a whole. So I pray that you will look at my platform, take a look, know that you have not only a very, very knowledgeable person, you have a businesswoman, you have a person that is not afraid to call out the corruption, and who is not afraid to call Florida Department of Law Enforcement, U.S. Marshals, FBI, whoever will listen simultaneously, because that's what it's going to take, because we have so many people on the take that we have to clean our government once and for all. We do not have 4 years to allow these people to stay in office. Our city is almost bankrupt, and I need your help, and I need your vote on November the 7th. Please make sure that you are registered to vote, that you take the time to vote, that you get your neighbors out to vote, that you hold your neighbors accountable. Make sure that they go to vote on November the 7th. That's what I would encourage you. We have a system where most of the ballots that are here in Miami are almost 50% of them are vote by mail. I do not recommend vote by mail, not in the city. We already have evidence in court back even as early as before 2000, where Suarez and Joe Carollo were stealing votes. You know, there's a whole case file. It ended up being in that particular case that Suarez actually was the one who actually stole the votes, and the election was actually overturned back in Carollo's favor. However, I have no doubt that Carollo, Alex Diaz de la Portilla, are both responsible for helping harvest ballots. I have proof of it, actually. And those people are actually sitting on boards, and you know who you are because you've told me before you knew who I was. So thank you all for taking time to listen today. Please do make sure that you even tune in tonight. I'm going to live stream the candidates forum, the entire candidates forum, not just my part, okay, so that you can hear for yourself and you can make an informed decision. And I would just ask that if you are voting for anyone other than me, that you ask about the campaign finances, the PAC funds, which means Political Action Committee funds, where they're coming from, who's paying for their campaigns, and what connections they have already to City Hall. Ask them for disclosures. If you can, please videotape those disclosures so that we have them for the future. So that if for some unforeknown reason, anyone but myself takes this office, we can hold them accountable, because I expect you to hold me accountable to these words. I am very happy to be your next city commissioner for District 2. So just make sure that you vote November the 7th, Christi Tasker. Thank you guys, and God bless.